you so much for tuning in. Welcome back to my channel. And yes, today I'll be in conversation with Pallavi Pratap. She's a practicing lawyer at the Supreme Court of India, and my topic of discussion with her today is on the subject of divorce. Did divorce really exist in Hinduism? And if not, when was it introduced? And how does Hinduism really see divorce, the position of women and the position of men? So come, let us talk to her. So according to the Hindu marriage, the concept of divorce wasn't there. Is this true?
Yes, because as per Hinduism, marriage is not seen as a contract. It is primarily a ritual. It is like, Saat Janmo wala concept, which has always been there. So we don't, unlike other religion, we don't see it as a contract. We see that this is a bond that we are getting into. As a matter of fact, it is one of the sanskar that is there. So like we have different other sanskars while we grow up, marriage again happens to be a sanskar. So it is not something that you get out of unless, of course, there are eventualities. In Narad Smriti, I remember there is this quotation where it says that a wife can remarry only under certain circumstances, which if you see has also been incorporated in the Hindu Marriage Act. So what they've done is like in Narad Smriti, they've said that if your husband, let's say, is impotent or if he has died, but death has not really been defined in the sense that they've said that if he's gone abroad and you haven't heard from him for some time, or if he has some mental illness, then in those situations, in ancient time, a woman could leave the husband and then get remarried. Now that has been incorporated in our present marriage laws, where especially under Hindu Marriage Act, where they've defined these things. So if you've not heard from your husband for 7 years, or if the husband is impotent, or if there is some sickness which you feel that will be detrimental, then you can obviously go ahead and apply for a divorce. It could be also on grounds of mental cruelty, etc., which has now been elaborated so far. But primarily, marriage was always seen as a bond and not as a contract, which is there in other religions. So.
When was this concept of divorce introduced in India? That is the first part. The second part is, why does the law always favor the women, and it does not distinguish that this is an independent woman and this is not an independent and a helpless woman? For the law, we generally hear that in India the law favors the woman.
Yeah, I think what had happened initially was that when we, in the late 1800s, the white man burden which was there with the English who had come, and they thought that it was upon them to ensure that the women are emancipated, even though their own women actually got emancipation or voting rights very late in 1920s, I believe, or something like that. However, when they came over here, they realized that since we have this white man's burden, we have to ensure that sati doesn't happen, or child marriages are prohibited, or how widows were treated at that point in time. I mean, I think movies like Chuker Bali and all of these actually show how women were treated at that point in time, especially widows. A young widow would have gone through so much. So I think they thought that it is important for them to ensure that these problems, these social evils which were there, they should have been done away with. So they started to do it very slowly in the late 1800s, when we see a lot of social revolution in India also happening at that point in time. But the present form only came we can say post independence. There was more of a momentum, and I think divorce as it is was always seen as something which was which women were always dissuaded from. They were always told that this is not something that you should, this is not an option for you. I think even till date, a lot of women probably do not opt for divorce because they think of it as a social evil, and that they will not have the sense of security that women these days will. As far as independent women are concerned, I think that is a very minuscule percentage, because we are all living in urban places, and we are independent, we are confident, and we earn our own living, we buy our own diamonds, so to say. But women in villages, they are not really doing so well for themselves, because they are still reliant upon their family members if they come back. I remember visiting a village last year where one of the girls, she must have been in her early 20s, and the husband had left her because of the traditional evils of bearing a daughter, a girl child like that. So he wanted to get married to someone else so that they can have a son. And these are really happening even in 2020, which was a shocker to me also. But so she comes back, and then the divorce happens, and then quickly everybody wants her to get married to someone else and start her life again. I mean, I have been divorced now, and my parents are definitely not forcing me to do it, because they know I need some time, and if and it is my decision. But unlike in villages, it's completely different scenario. They want to push you and get into your household, and they would not want them to stay. So I think for them, independence will not really happen, because independence will basically mean financial independence. And where will they get that kind of money from to be able to live, independently? I think that will be very difficult for them. So the law is made in such a manner that it is always thinking about the most downtrodden person, and then the law is formulated. It is not formulated for the likes of me, who can probably go and earn their own living because they have the most supportive parents, or the friends who are supportive, or things like that. But law is always supporting people who cannot help themselves. So a lot of times people say that protection from domestic violence, for example, these are laws which are favoring women a lot. And that 498A section, which is the dowry section, what happens is that without bail, a person can actually be lying in jail, the in-laws or the husband, and they will not even get a bail very quickly. These things are rampant, and I know a lot of people are misusing it also. But this is also being used by people who are really suffering. So, it's just that law probably comes with its own evils. And if the system is very strong, they will be able to overcome that. But I doubt that's going to happen anytime soon.
In India, now this concept of live-in relationships have come in. So live-in relationship and marriage in the legal terms, does it hold the same weightage, or it doesn't hold the same weightage?
No, so Supreme Court in recent judgments has extended the same rights which are given to a wife to the live-in relationship partner also. So if there has been a live-in relationship, then the wife, or sorry, the spouse would have the same rights as a wife would, in terms of property, in terms of benefits that would accrue. However, it is and as a matter of fact, I've seen cases where if there is a wife who's not even legally married, let's say it's a second wife. In Hinduism, or as per Hindu Marriage Act, you're not allowed to get married the second time. So despite that, if there is a woman with whom the husband's been living and she's the second wife, then sometimes even in government jobs, these kids actually get entitlement to the job in case the husband passes away. So these things are happening. It is not that they are not acceptable by society, but they are with these passing of the judgments. They are becoming legalized in some sense. At least the rights are flowing through them. But yeah, of course, a lot of people do not want to get into live-in relationship because they think that it might not really work out for them legally, because these are rights. Then you have to enforce it through court cases, which might go on for 20 years, and then your right might be executable. So.
But you need a substantial amount of a live-in relationship to gain such favors from the court, or you just need
I think no, there is no such thing as timelines which have been formulated. However, I think it depends upon the kind of live-in relationship that has been there, in terms of if there is a child which has been born out of a live-in relationship. status without the wedlock being there, then those rights will accrue. But and we actually also see that a lot of women unfortunately will put in 376, which is the rape section, on someone with whom they've been living in, also saying that, with different other accusations coming in place. So you know how it is that the law can also be misused by women so many times. But yes, I think the live-in relationship in that sense does not have any timeline, so to say. It is only depending upon how you are able to prove how strong that live-in relationship was.
And how does an innocent man save himself? Sometimes, they get trapped in under a certain situation where he has done nothing, but he gets trapped and he's sent to jail with this whole concept of divorce, or that the domestic violence or something. So, how does an innocent man save himself? Is there a way out?
No, I think the judiciary will work as it is, and law will take its due course. It is not that we will have a magic wand and suddenly, like you show it in the movies, that a judge will realize that you are an innocent man by giving some kind of a bhashan. That doesn't really happen. There are evidences which are put in, and then depending upon the evidence, if it is there that the person is innocent, he will be released. But it doesn't happen on a drop of the hat. It takes, sometimes it can take as much as 4 to 5 years for a person to prove his innocence. So for an innocent man to get out of it, it is little difficult, because the law has to determine whether or not that person is innocent. Any crime as such, like let's say for example, if there is cruelty or if there is domestic violence, these things are not just considered to be done against the complainant or the wife, but they are also considered to be done against the state. So therefore, state is always a party. There is an investigating officer. That is why the police is involved. So the state has to determine and then put in the evidences. They can always put a final report saying that there is no case which is made out. This goes both ways. A lot of times you would see that final report is put in a matter where there are clear evidences, and then you will also see that a final report is not being put in when there are clear evidences of no cruelty. So it primarily happens on law taking its own course.
In the Western world, we see this prenuptial agreement being done. In India, does this concept exist, the prenuptial agreement, and does it hold any weight?
Prenuptial agreement here in India, at least, is not considered legal. Like I said, marriage is not a contract here, so there is no agreement as such. But there have been increasing growth that has been that I think a lot of people are witnessing also, and quite a few people are doing it. And I'm sure the Ambanis and Adanis of the world probably would be indulging into that as well. Everybody wants to secure their assets. So the idea would be that you can have an agreement which is done mutually by both the parties agreeing to, signing off an agreement. But this agreement has to be signed before the marriage is done, where you have to outline that, let's say, I have XYZ assets, she has XYZ assets, and that in the event that the marriage breaks down, we will have these assets divided, and any asset that we jointly come up with, this is how the division is going to look like. So it is acceptable. It is not that it is not, but you have to make sure that these are done before before the marriage takes place, and as per the guidelines of the Indian Contract Act, so to say.
Thank you so much. Thank you. And I think everybody has learned so much about the legal concept of divorce and everything. Thank you so much. Thank you.
No problem. Take care.
Yeah, guys, so I was in conversation with Pallavi Pratap. She is, as I said, a practicing lawyer at the Supreme Court. And yes, I think we did gain a lot of information as to how the concept of divorce was really introduced, and how does the law see the whole concept of divorce. So yes, and I hope that you did enjoy today's episode. And yes, do tune in. Now I post in videos 4 times a week: Wednesday, Thursday, Saturday, and Sunday. At what time? Yes, 7:30 p.m. So I'll be waiting for you at 7:30 p.m. on Wednesday. So see you then. Bye. Take care.